Alright, so here's something that I wanted to show you, which I find truly fascinating. Google released their model recently, Gemma 4, and it's kind of incredible. But to understand why, I'm going to first show you Gemma 2, and mind, all these models are in the same weight class, so they're all about 27 billion parameters. So then we'll take a look at Gemma 3, also 27 billion parameters, and finally Gemma 4, 26 billion parameters. So yeah, Gemma 2 released 644 days ago, so it's quite an old model by now. So we going to ask the same prompt to each model, and we'll see how they compare. So let's start with Gemma 2, and they all weigh a bit, about 16 gigabytes in download, and they fit into my GPU not quite fully, as you can see. Like, the memory, the RAM is still occupied, and the CPU will do things as well as GPU, but I only have 12 gigabytes of GPU. But it's important to keep in mind that this GPU is basically about 300 euros, more or less. So yeah, it's not a powerful GPU by any means, but let's get to it. So the first test I'm going to throw at these models is just to say hi, see if they work, if they respond. Okay, not great in terms of speed, but it's fine. It says hi there. So the next step is I'm going to ask to draw it an ASCII cat. The reason is it shows how much of sort of spatial awareness the model has, but still keeps it in text domain, which is easy to see and reason about. Okay, not quite an ASCII cat, I would say. It looks more like a rabbit, but all right. And it's the formatting is also incorrect because yeah, it's not what it's supposed to look like. So the final prompt is now come up with a new animal on your own and draw it too. And this is a bit of a vague prompt on purpose, because when I ask it to come up with a new animal, I don't specify that it needs to be like a invented new animal. Like, it can be giraffe or a dog or something, so it doesn't have to be like a fairy tale animal. But some models invent new animals on the spot, some just respond to a different animal, but we'll see how Gemma 2 does. Okay, here's the creature I just mentioned, a loop. Yeah, it tries to imagine something that doesn't exist in the real world, which is fine. It says it's fluffy, bouncy creature with big ears and sparkly eyes. And again, I'm not quite sure. Wait, these are supposed to be eyes, I think. Maybe these are ears. I'm not sure what's going on here. Anyways, the formatting is broken again. It did add emoji here, and it seems to like to add emojis overall. Okay, now that we have these, remember, this was 600 days ago, so let's unload this model and pick another one, which is Gemma 3, which was 391 days ago, so a bit closer to current time. And yeah, again, you can see in the graphs that we are unloading and loading the models. And this one takes a bit longer to load. But we're going to run the same exact prompts, and you'll see if there was any improvement in 300 days that passed from Gemma 2 to Gemma 3. Also mind you that I'm also recording at the same time, so that also takes the video encode resources over here, so that's why. And there's no decoding and no copying at the moment, so those graphs are empty. Okay, we have loaded this one. This one does have vision. I'm not going to test vision or tool calls, just to keep it fair to all models. So we're starting with high. Again, emojis here at the end. A bit of a longer text, which is fine, but then it goes into bullet point lists. All right, sure, why not? Yeah, and see the CPU is also doing some work here, so that's why it's so slow, but it's totally fine. Okay, I think it's done. All right, so it gave us bullet point text, which is not great for such a simple prompt, but let's go further. Let's try to draw an ASCII cat. And this one does give us some options, which is good. And for the first time, the cat actually looks like a cat, at least the simple one. The more detailed one, I can see it's kind of drew more of the cat, but it also broke the formatting here a little bit, whereas here it's clear. Here's a bit off-center. And the sleeping cat didn't really work great. Okay, and the final prompt is coming up with a new animal and draw it too. So let's see how that would work. And this is like 390 days ago, so it's not that far off. So it's like a year ago that we were here. And this one is also about 16-ish gigabyte in download. They are pretty much the same in download size and requirements. Okay, this Floofle looks a lot more comprehensive, and I would even call this a character, a successful generation. One thing though is art doesn't really correspond to the description. They have big ears and tiny wings. So, well, we won't probably see tiny wings, but again, I'm not seeing big ears here. Big eyes, little smile. Okay, smile is here, eyes is here. Okay, I would say that's good enough. No ears though on this character. And now let's unload this model and load the one that they have released 5 days ago. So the most recent one. And again, it's going to load into the memory. And because my GPU is not big enough, it's going to split the load between the RAM and the GPU VRAM, and also some CPU work is going to happen too here. But anyways, it's loaded, and this one has thinking and vision. So we're going to start seeing thinking tokens. Yeah, here's the thinking process it's doing. And let's see, thought for 2 seconds, and yeah, it's the usual reasoning tokens that LLM spit out. But yeah, the answer is quite concise. There's no emojis at the end, and it's quite nice. So let's continue with this. And I think it also was quite a bit faster than the previous ones. Now we're asking to draw an ASCII cat and see what's it doing in thinking. It actually tries several variants while it thinks before it even outputs anything as its final answer. And it does also happen quite fast, honestly, even with the split between CPU and GPU, which is fascinating and kind of awesome at the same time. Yeah, it's I think there's a way to set the thinking budget, but I'm using the defaults here now. Yeah, it gave us several options. Again, the minimalist, slightly off center, or like looking to the left, I guess, cat, the sitting cat, and the loaf cat. Okay, this is a new one. I haven't seen this one before. And the sleeping cat is actually kind of a sleeping cat, if you can imagine. Like, here's paws, here's the face of the cat, and here's the sleeping sound it makes. So it's closer to reality. And finally, let's fire this prompt. And again, this model is exact same, like 16-ish gigabyte in download size. So it's like the weights haven't increased too much. And I think this one is even smaller than the others. So what did happen is, by some clever engineering and science, people were able to pack a lot more than they could a year ago into the same size of file, which I find absolutely outstanding. There's no way you could download, say, a same movie, like same Blu-ray movie of 16 gigabytes, and it would be like miles better than it was 2 years ago. Like it just doesn't work like that. It's completely insane what's happening here. So let's see what it's doing. Yeah, it thought that the tasks is to create original animals. So it broke down the prompt into task and then into ideas, and then it's refining ideas, planning the visually what's going on. Yeah, planning the features and all of that with just one prompt. Going through iterations of the character. And what I'm trying to show here is that basically, if you imagine like a year from now on, if you imagine a year from now on, you would be able pretty much to download on your consumer GPU that you bought for like $300, you would be able to download a thing that would be like running circles around this. You would give it a stupid prompt and it would just go to work and do it on your own hardware. And this is just astonishing, to be honest. It's kind of scary, honestly. The amount of progress that has been done in just like 300 days, and then 300 days later it's like 10 times more capable of doing things. and 300 days later it's even more. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's exponential, but it's really steep. Okay, it has invented a new creature. Sproutling. Okay, tiny creature, fur instead of body, covered in soft moss. Okay. Large leaf-shaped ears. Okay, these are the ears probably. And little twig-like legs for scurrying through the undergrowth. Okay, there you go. Here's the sproutling. But yeah, the model has finished, and the CPU and GPU are now steady. And yeah, like I said, capabilities increase with alarming pace, and there's so much ingenuity going into these. So I'm just kind of amazed at that, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. So thank you, and see you next time.